Hi, my name is Tiana Karamayas and I'm a Cavoodle puppy coach and breeder for Noodle Way and River City Puppies. As a coach, my philosophy is simple. A Cavoodle should always complement your lifestyle, not complicate it. And this is the foundation to everything I teach. For almost the past decade, I have been working in the breeding, training, grooming, and veterinary sectors of the small animal industry. I've also been raising Cavoodles for the past 16 years, so I have definitely learned a thing or two about the breed along the way. Now this podcast is all about Cavoodles. Raising Cavoodles, training Cavoodles, grooming Cavoodles, breeding Cavoodles, and how to shape the behaviour of a Cavoodle puppy. So if you're a Cavoodle parent or you are looking at adding a Cavoodle to your family soon, then this podcast is for you. New episodes will be released each Tuesday morning and you can follow me across all social media under the name @OodleWay for more tips and advice on Cavoodles. Thanks for tuning in. Hello and welcome back to episode 64 of the Cavoodle Coach podcast. My name is Tiana Karamayas and I'm your host and your Cavoodle puppy coach. And for today's episode, what I really wanted to do is I wanted to sit down and I wanted to have a conversation with you, the new Cavoodle parent, as if I was speaking to you directly with all of my advice, everything I wish you could know as you get ready to get a Cavoodle, raise a Cavoodle, have a Cavoodle puppy and become a Cavoodle parent. Because this time in your life, it is extremely special. It is nothing like getting a puppy. It is so exciting. It's the most beautiful experience, but it also is a very important time because what you do in the early months with your new Cavoodle really dictates how the rest of your Cavoodle's life with you is going to look like. And hopefully with our Cavoodles, we have them for the next 15 years, which is a very long time. And we want to make sure that they fit into our families perfectly. They complement our lifestyle. And they're absolutely everything we ever dreamed of. So for the episode today, that is what we are doing. We are going to be talking about what I wish you could know before your Cavoodle puppy comes home. I already know it's going to be a longer episode, but that's okay because it's going to be packed full of so much important information. And I really think if you're getting a Cavoodle puppy, you're going to want to listen to this. So pop on this episode in the background while you drive to work, while you're getting ready with the kids, while you're doing the laundry, whatever it is, sit down, put this episode on and just have an open mind and absorb all the information you can because I'm going to share everything with you about what I wish you could know if you were getting a Cavoodle. So let's dive straight in. Let's get started straight away. The first thing I wanted to say is if you are very new to this podcast and this maybe is the first episode you are listening to, hello and welcome. Like I said, my name is Tiana. I am a Cavoodle puppy coach, but I am also a Cavoodle breeder. I no longer have litters of puppies myself because I focus entirely on the coaching that I offer, but I have over a decade of experience working in the small animal industry and so much time spent learning about the early development of a puppy's brain. And my entire life purpose, I've been obsessed with Cavoodles since I got my first one when I was 8 years old. My entire life purpose, what really gets me up in the morning and gets me so excited is just helping families with their new Cavoodle puppies. They are the most amazing breed. They can be so perfect for every family. And what I want to do is make sure everyone listening to this podcast gets started on the right foot and has the best experience with their new puppy. So that's a little bit about me. I'm really happy you're here. There's a lot of information on this podcast. There's a lot of episodes. So after this episode, you can go listen to some more. But this is a really good place to start, especially if you're in that process of maybe putting a deposit down for a puppy. Maybe you've already selected your puppy's on the way. Or maybe you've already brought your puppy home and you're in those early weeks together and you're just wanting to learn about everything you should be doing with them to make sure you're setting them up for the best life. So let's get started. When you bring your new puppy home, now a normal, ethical, responsible breeder will not let you bring your puppy home before they are 8 weeks old. So usually when you are getting your puppy, they're at least 8 weeks. Typically breeders let their Cavoodle puppies go between 8 to 10 weeks. So your puppy will be somewhere between this age. The important thing to note though is what is happening to your puppy at this age in their life. The first thing I always like to say to families, and it's something I feel like so many people really forget, simply because when we get our puppies, they're already walking and running and jumping and biting and they go to the toilet and they eat on their own and they play and they seem so mature, so fully formed. Like they are just this little living being and they are so capable at doing everything. And a lot of families forget that their puppy is only 8 weeks old. And 8 weeks ago was when they entered this world. And when they entered this world as a little newborn puppy, they couldn't see on their own. Their eyes were shut. They can't hear. Their ears are shut. They definitely cannot walk. And they also can't go to the toilet on their own when they're first born. Their mum literally has to lick them to stimulate them going to the toilet. So 8 weeks ago, and think back 8 weeks ago, what were you doing 8 weeks ago? It wasn't that long ago. 8 weeks is a very short amount of time. 8 weeks ago, your puppy entered this world completely helpless, only having their mother to care for them and make sure they survive, and of course, a very good breeder as well. And then it wasn't until your puppy was roughly about 5 weeks of age that they properly started to get the hang of walking. They're still very clumsy at this age, and at this age is usually when they start going from milk and they start transitioning onto some puppy food. And so if that's happening around 5 weeks of age and you're getting your puppy at 8 weeks of age, they've only had a few weeks of being able to walk, being able to bark at each other, to properly play. They're just so new to the world. And I think this is a really important thing that I want everyone to just take a moment to consider. If you have to pause this episode, pause it, because I want you to really take this into account, really put yourself in your puppy's shoes and really just process how new to the world your puppy is, because this is going to really help you through the early weeks with your puppy, understanding their behavior, understanding what can be expected of them during this time, and making sure we don't have any unrealistic expectations on them too early. And we're going to dive into that a little bit later. But just keep in mind, your puppy has really only been doing these normal puppy behaviors for the last few weeks at most. And that's not long at all. Now, when your puppy is 8 weeks old, 9 weeks old, 10 weeks old, somewhere in that period, when you do bring them home, your puppy is in a very, very crucial, one of the most important developmental periods of their entire life. And this is called their critical socialization period. Now, there has been plenty of studies done on the early development of a puppy's brain. I've done plenty of certificates myself learning all of this. And what I can tell you is your puppy enters this critical socialization period when they are 3 weeks old. So that'll be with the breeder. At 3 weeks old, they enter their critical socialization period. And typically it lasts until they are about 12 weeks old. Now, there can be some leeway. Some puppies might stay in it for another couple of weeks, but usually it's around 12 weeks of age that they start to leave this period. And this is really important because the way that your puppy thinks when you first bring them home and they're under 12 weeks of age is very different to how they are going to think once they go past this critical socialization period and they enter the next stage of their development, usually around 12 weeks of age. And the reason why I really wanted to start with this in this episode is because I want you to understand how crucial and how important it is to do things the right way when you bring your puppy home. Because when your puppy is in their critical socialization period, this is when they are the most impressionable. This is when their little brain is literally like a kitchen sponge. Imagine having a yellow sponge in your hand and you pop it in the water and it just expands. It soaks up so much water. That is essentially what your puppy's brain is like during their critical socialization period. Now, of course, they keep learning things after their critical socialization period, but the main thing that changes when they exit this period is the way their brain processes what they are seeing, what they're experiencing, and what they are feeling. When they're in their critical socialization period, so when they are under 12 weeks of age, your puppy is brand new to this world and they are experiencing things for the first time. They have no prior experiences, which means they don't have any pre-existing fears or expectations or beliefs or feelings about anything at all. Everything is brand new. And the thing about puppies that is different to other newborn creatures in this world, especially if we talk about human babies, is puppies go through their development so quickly. I literally just explained that when they were born, they couldn't see, they couldn't hear, they couldn't walk, and they couldn't go to the toilet on their own. But then by 5 weeks of age, they're doing this all on their own. Whereas a human baby takes years sometimes before they can even walk. And a newborn baby doesn't even start trying new foods until usually around 6 months of age. But a puppy starts trying proper food sometimes from 3 weeks of age. So their period of development is so quick. And that means that because their brain is so impressionable, because it's like that sponge, they start to absorb and create ideas and beliefs on all of these experiences so quickly. And every single day during that critical socialization period, they are seeing different things, hearing different things, sniffing different things, exploring different things, learning new things, and they're making their mind up on all of those different objects, experiences, people, animals in their life. And the reason why this is so important to understand is because these first experiences shape your puppy's behavior towards them. So if your puppy has a really, really wonderful experience with a child for the first time, and it's very calm and respectful, full of love and maybe a little bit of play, the puppy then goes, okay, this little tiny human being is friendly. This little human being is safe. This little human being respects my boundaries and my space and doesn't force themselves into me. And they go, okay, we love children. And the next time your puppy sees another child, they feel these emotions again and they have that same positive reaction towards children. But if your puppy's first experience with a child was being picked up when they don't want to be picked up, held in the air, and your puppy gets scared, the child is laughing or screaming and it scares the puppy, the child is running around, jumping around, scaring the puppy, anything like this would be a negative experience. Your puppy goes, oh my goodness, little children are scary. Little children make me do things I don't want to do. I don't like little children. And the next time your puppy sees a child, they immediately have this negative association with them, and then they have those negative behavior responses. And this is what happens during that critical socialization period. Your puppy is experiencing things for the very first time. They have no prior experience, which means they have no prejudice towards anything. And whatever that first experience is, that is what they take as gospel. They say, okay, children are wonderful. Or they say, okay, children, I don't like them. And so when you bring your puppy home, and they're 8 weeks old, we have to really put ourselves in our puppy's shoes. We need to literally go into their little brains and go, okay, what in this house, what in this world is our puppy seeing for the first time, and how can we make sure this is really positive? And how can we make sure everyone treats the puppy correctly? And how can we make sure nothing scares the puppy, nothing overwhelms the puppy, nothing creates anxiety in the puppy? This is a really important goal when you first bring your puppy home. It should be taking up all of your time, all of your focus, making sure that every experience your puppy has is really positive, and they're never feeling fear, anxiety, stress, danger, overwhelm, anything like that. And that happens during the critical socialization period. Now, during this time, your puppy's critical socialization period, another really wonderful thing about it is they are extremely confident. They are extremely curious because they don't know not to be curious and they don't know not to be confident. And so if you put a doggy door in front of your puppy and they're under 12 weeks old and you put some peanut butter on it that's xylitol free and dog friendly, and they lick it, they're going to just jump straight through that doggy door because they don't know that the doggy door can be scary. They don't know that the doggy door can swing back and hit them in the face. They don't know any of this. So they barrel straight through it. And what this means is our puppies are going to have this little bit more confidence and curiosity that can really help them experience and explore new things without any fear or hesitation. Now, on the other hand, once your puppy leaves that critical socialization period, it's kind of like they go into a new stage of development, a new stage of maturity. And what this means is suddenly they go, This looks interesting. When I tap this flap with my nose, it kind of swings back at me. Okay, if I go through this, what if it hits me? Suddenly, your puppy's brain is able to process things. They're a little bit more mature. They're able to have a little bit more reasoning in their brain. And so they start to look at things with a little bit of hesitancy. Not so much confidence, not so much curiosity. And so when we bring our puppies home, this critical socialization period is so important. It is a wonderful, wonderful period of time where if we do it correctly and we make sure that we properly desensitize our puppy and we properly expose them to things and we build up those exposures so they grow in intensity, we can really shape our puppy's brain into understanding that nothing in our world is scary. Nothing in our world causes stress. Nothing in this world causes overwhelmed. And when we succeed with this for our puppy, it means we have a puppy who is never scared of being alone. A puppy who is never scared of thunder or lightning or fireworks. A puppy who doesn't jump every time a plate hits the bench. A puppy who doesn't run away when children enter the room. A puppy who doesn't get scared when you get the vacuum cleaner out. A puppy who isn't scared of the bar or the brush or anything like that. When we do things right in the critical socialization period and we teach our puppies and guide them and show them that these things are nothing to be concerned over, we will have a really confident, happy, content, comfortable, curious Cavoodle puppy and Cavoodle adult. But if we do things incorrectly in that critical socialization period and they have lots of negative experiences, or we flood their emotions too quickly and we do too much too quickly and too much pressure and too much intensity and we just do things wrong, we can do the opposite to our puppy and we can create a lot of behavioral issues going forward. A lot of noise sensitivities, sight sensitivities, with separation anxiety, social anxiety, anxiety over novelty things, resource guarding with children, anything like this can be formed just by simply doing the wrong exposures when our puppies are in the critical socialization period. And I know if you're listening to this, that you're going, okay, I'm starting to understand this. This is kind of feels like a lot of pressure. How do we know we're doing things right during the critical socialization period? What I want to say to that is good. I want you to understand how important this period is. Your puppy is the most impressionable at this age, which means if we do things right, they are going to learn the quickest at this age. They're going to form the most positive associations with everything in your life at this age. And then we're going to really set our puppies up with a great platform for all of the future learning they do and the future experiences they have. And when we do things right during this critical socialization period, your puppy flies through all the activities so easily, so quickly, and it doesn't take much time. But on the other hand, if you don't do it correctly and things are done wrong and there's no plan and you're just exposing your puppy to things without actually knowing how to understand their body language and what your puppy is saying back, that's when we can fall into a little bit of trouble. And I'm going to go more into this later on in the episode in how you can make sure you do the right things during this critical socialization period. So I hope that makes sense. That is the first thing I wanted to cover in this episode. I know we are already quite a way into this episode. I told you it was going to be long, but I hope you're enjoying it. I hope you're learning. Feel free to pause, take some notes, write things down, re-listen to something if you didn't understand it, because this is the stuff that I really wish everyone knew when getting a puppy. Because if you're not aware of what developmental period your puppy is in, you'll do the wrong things. You'll make mistakes, and those mistakes are really, really hard to reverse. Because once your puppy has a negative association with something, to turn that back to positive, you have to do counter-conditioning training. And it takes a lot of time, repetition, consistency. It's really difficult for the puppy, really difficult for the family, and it can take months and months and months of training, and you sometimes can never achieve the same positive association that your puppy could have had if things were done properly from the beginning. So keep that in mind, and let's go on to the next part of this episode. So the next topic I want to cover is I really want to talk to you about what your puppy is thinking when they come into your new home, and what your Cavoodle puppy is thinking when they come into a new home, because every breed of dog, they think a bit differently, they learn a bit differently. And Cavoodles are very different. They are not a naturally confident breed. It's something we can definitely build and create inside of them pretty easily with the right activities during the critical socialization period. But outside of this, they're not born overly confident. They're not born overly adventurous. You might have the odd puppy in the litter who is, but it's not an overly common thing. And so when we bring our little Cavoodle puppy home, what I want to say to you is we have to remember that your little Cavoodle puppy is quite nervous, of course. They have been taken away from their siblings and their mum and their home, their litter, their whelping pen that is safe. And now they've been put into a car or put onto a plane and they've gone to a completely new environment with different smells, different people, different objects in the house that, maybe they've never even seen a TV before. Maybe they've never seen the dishwasher before. So many things that they've never had any experience to. And they're popped into this brand new home with brand new people and they're only 8 weeks old. They're only 8 weeks old and they're so brand new to the world. And so when our puppy comes into our house, the one thing we want to be doing outside of making sure everything's very positive is we really want to make sure that we are being really good role models for them, that we are doing a really good job at guiding them and we're being very open and calm and loving, but not overwhelming. We don't want to smother the puppy. We don't want to force the puppy to do things, but we want to make sure that we are reassuring them that we are a safe person they can trust. It is all about trust in those early weeks. And as the trust builds between your puppy and you and your puppy's personality will start to come out even more. And that's when they really start to do well with their training. But until then, it's a very delicate period where we're having to show our puppy who their new family is. And we're having to show them that they can trust us. And what I want to touch on here is I want to talk about the behaviors that we're going to see in our puppy when we come home. Now, these behaviors are behaviors that pretty much every puppy is going to display unless the breeder has done previous training. But 99% of the time, the puppy is going to display these behaviors. The first thing I want you to know is there are two main things that causes naughty puppy behaviors in a puppy. And by naughty puppy behaviors, I mean things like jumping and barking and biting and zooming around the house and chewing and anything that we normally classify as that's a naughty dog. These puppy behaviors, they come from two root causes. Number one is whenever your puppy experiences a heightened emotion. So they get really, really excited, or they get really, really stressed, or really, really tired, or really, really anxious, or really, really overwhelmed. When they go past a threshold, which in my program, I talk all about this and how to recognize when they're reaching this threshold. But if they go past this threshold, no matter what, when your puppy has that really heightened emotion, they have an adrenaline rush go through them. This adrenaline rush, it's nothing they can control. It just is how a puppy's body deals with it. The adrenaline rush comes through, and then to work through that adrenaline, a puppy starts to do certain behaviors to bring that adrenaline back down and to calm themselves back down. And those behaviors is the biting, the barking, the jumping, the chewing, the zooming around the house, literally everything a family does not want in a puppy. And that happens when a puppy feels really strong, really heightened emotions. Now, the second reason that a puppy feels or does these naughty behaviors, and it is combined, but I'm going to explain it separately so you can understand. It comes down to a lack of communication. So with a puppy, again, we have to always put ourselves in our puppy's shoes. That's what I say to the families I work with and my clients all the time. Put yourself in your puppy's shoes. The day before they came to your house, they were in a litter and they had siblings. And the way that puppies play together is they bite each other, they jump on each other, they bark at each other, they pull on each other's tails. And they do this whenever they want to play. And they do this whenever they want to communicate anything to each other. And they definitely cry. They cry for attention. They cry when they're bored. They cry when they want their mum to come over. That is how a puppy communicates. That is what comes to them naturally. And no one has taught them anything else. And so when yesterday they were with their litter mates and that's how they were communicating, and then today they've come into your house, have a guess on how they're going to try to communicate with you. I bet you're already saying, okay, they're going to cry, they're going to bark, they're going to jump, they're going to bite. And my answer to that is yes. That is exactly what your puppy is going to try and do. Again, unless your breeder has taught them otherwise. But if your breeder hasn't, that is how a puppy communicates. And your puppy does not know how to speak English. Your puppy does not know any other way of communication with you. And so when they come into your house, that is absolutely what they are going to do. And it does not mean they are a naughty puppy. It does not mean that you have bad luck and you just got a bad puppy from the bunch of puppies in the litter. That is not what it means. What it means is you have a puppy, and that is how a puppy communicates. And part of the training journey with your new puppy is teaching them how to communicate in a different way to us. And if this doesn't get done and no other communication channel is created, well, that's when you have a puppy who continues to bite and bark and jump and cry and zoom around the house when they're 6 months old, 1 year old, 3 years old, their entire life. And I really want you to keep that in mind, write a little note and just say, puppies communicate through naughty behaviors, and it's not naughty, it's just communication. And our job as their family is to teach them how to properly communicate with humans, because puppies and humans are two different species. We communicate through words. Puppies communicate through body language. And those are two different styles of communication, and we have to come together and create a new channel of communication that we both understand. And that is what it means to train a puppy. Okay, so that's the next thing I want you to know. When you're getting a puppy, that is what they are thinking. They are coming into your home, they're quite nervous, they're quite overwhelmed, they're a little bit scared, and when they feel these emotions, they are going to do all of the biting and the barking and the jumping and the crying because they get the adrenaline rushes, but they're also going to do those behaviors when they're just trying to communicate to you. And if we don't learn and we don't start to understand why they're crying and why they're jumping and what they're trying to say to us, we will continue to struggle with these naughty puppy behaviors, no matter how much obedience training you do. And we're going to talk about that in just a moment. So, again, we're getting through this episode. I hope you're enjoying it. The next part of the episode that I really want to talk about is I want to talk about the most common mistakes families are making that really hinders your training progress with your puppy. And also the common mistakes families make that leads to them going through something called the puppy blues. Now, the puppy blues is a very common emotional experience for families to have. Usually what happens is you get your new puppy and at first you're very, very excited and you're in a bit of a love bubble. They're so adorable, they're so cute. And then maybe a week goes past and suddenly you've been dealing with sleepless nights, the puppy wheezes all through the house, the puppy bites you every time you try to touch them, they jump all over you, they bark at you, they chew everything, they never seem to settle down and relax. And suddenly you start to experience the puppy blues. And a lot of families start to regret getting a puppy, second guessing themselves, and really just missing life before the puppy. This is a very normal experience to have, especially if we're struggling with that communication with our puppy. And it's a really normal experience that, firstly, we can absolutely get out of pretty quickly, but also if we just do the right thing from day one and we get onto the right plan with our puppy and we really understand what our puppy is saying and we learn about communicating with them, we can also avoid the puppy blues. And so these next mistakes that I'm going to go through, the things that I see families do wrong that can really hinder their training, if you are listening to this and you haven't yet got your puppy, if you can really take this into account and try your best to not make these mistakes, you are going to reduce your chances of experiencing the puppy blues. And if you are currently in the puppy blues and you have a puppy, go through these mistakes, and if you're doing one, guess what? It means you know what it is now and you can start to change what you're doing and you'll start to see better results in your puppy's behavior and their training. So let's go into it. I have quite a few different things here and we'll just get started. So the first very common mistake families make that really hinders their training is having unrealistic expectations. Now, what I mean by unrealistic expectations is literally families expecting too much too soon from their puppy. It's when families are dreaming about their new puppy and they're dreaming about what the puppy will be like, and all they envision is little cuddles on the couch, throwing a toy at the puppy, taking them to the coffee shop, showing your family and friends. And maybe you're thinking about, okay, there'll be some sleepless nights and there'll probably be some trouble with toilet training. But you're not really thinking about this communication channel and how that has to be created. And you don't actually realize that your puppy will go through a period of crying, barking, jumping, biting, all of these things until we actually form that communication channel between the both of you. And this takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't even happen in the first day or two. We can definitely see some really good results within the first week. But that's only if you get started on the right path and the right training path from day one. And if you're not doing that, then we're going to have a bit of a longer transition period. And this period is going to be hard. And it's really important that we just take it in our stride and we just count the small wins we have without expecting the world from our puppy. Because again, your puppy is 8 weeks old. They're brand new to everything. They have probably never even had a treat from someone before. And this is something that I see so much with families I work with. And they come to me and they say, Tiana, my puppy just doesn't even want a treat. And they won't train because they don't want a treat. And what I have to say to that is your puppy has probably never had a treat before, and your puppy has no idea that humans give them treats. And we have to teach our puppies. We have to teach them what it means to train, what it looks like to train. We have to teach them what a treat is. We have to teach them that if they follow our hand directions, then they get the treat. And that's going to take some time. And that is only going to happen when your puppy trusts you. And that trust can take time too. So if you're getting a puppy, please don't have these really unrealistic expectations that you're going to teach them all of these different obedience training really quickly. Just know sometimes it takes a little bit longer with puppies, especially if they've never ever worked one-on-one with a human before. And that's the majority of majority of cases when we are getting a puppy, because usually the puppy has spent all their time with their litter mates, the breeder comes in and feeds them, and then probably doesn't do much one-on-one training with them. So if that's the case with your puppy, it's going to take a little bit longer for them to really transition, understand what training looks like, what treats are, and build that trust between a human and them to actually want to interact and engage. So your unrealistic expectations can really hinder your training, because when a family has these unrealistic expectations and the puppy is not meeting these unrealistic expectations, the family then thinks they are failing, they're doing something wrong, they start to get more stressed, annoyed, anxious, disappointed, and guess what? If that's how you're feeling around your puppy and you're not being very open and loving and supportive, your puppy feels all this anxiety, this stress, this anger, this tension, and it makes your puppy stress, and it makes your puppy freak out, and it makes your puppy anxious. And when your puppy is feeling those heightened emotions because of you, that's when those naughty behaviors come out because of that adrenaline rush. So it's a bit of a snowball effect. If you're feeling stressed and anxious and annoyed and angry at your puppy can sense this. Your puppy knows something is wrong. They have no idea what is wrong because they don't speak English, but they know something is wrong. And that's when they start to feel very stressed and scared and anxious themselves. And that's not going to build that trust between you and your puppy. It's not going to give them a really open, safe, and supportive environment to form those positive associations with the world during their critical socialization period. And we're going to see our puppy start to do a lot more of the behaviors we don't want, which then makes the family more angry, and then you can just see how it spirals out of control. So your expectations have to be realistic. We have to be very patient, and we have to just know that your puppy is going to be able to learn obedience training for the next couple of years of their life. We're going to be reinforcing this. We're going to be reminding our puppy what it is. We've got time up our sleeves for obedience training. And by obedience training, I mean sit, down, stay, recall. We've got time for that. What we don't have time for is for those positive associations to be formed with the world during that critical socialization period, because that's up until 12 weeks of age. So your expectations when you bring your puppy home has to be on building trust, forming a communication channel between the two of you, and showing your puppy that the world is a very safe place for them to be in. That's what we really need to focus on for our expectations. And then the rest of it, we got time, okay? We've got plenty of time. Okay, now the next common mistake that I see, And this one here is a really big one. And I'm hoping some of the families listening to this have time to maybe spend a bit more time thinking about this one before making a decision. And that is when a family picks the wrong breeder for their Cavoodle puppy and doesn't recognize the breeder's impact. Now, I have been coaching and training Cavoodle puppies for years now. I've been helping families for years now. Hundreds and hundreds of families I have spoken to and helped. And over those years, I am obviously working with lots of puppies, and I'm able to see the puppies who transition really easily into their new homes, the puppies who do really well with their training, and the puppies who don't have separation anxiety from the beginning. These puppies have come from really good breeders. But then on the other hand, I can also see puppies who come from pet shops, or they come from backyard breeders, or they come from breeders who just put the puppies in a pen and do nothing with them for 8 weeks and then send them off to their new homes. And when a family picks a puppy from a breeder like this or a pet shop, it really doesn't set the puppy up for success, and it makes your training journey so much more difficult. The breeder is the most important decision you will make when it comes to getting your puppy. It's not about what gender, it's not about what color, what size, whether they're curly or wavy. None of this matters. That's all physical appearance stuff. What matters for your puppy is how they're being raised, what work the breeder does. Because what I want you to remember is that critical socialization period starts when the puppy is 3 weeks old. Your puppy spends 5 weeks of their critical socialization period with the breeder and only 4 weeks with you, if that. And so what that means is if we are picking a puppy from the wrong breeder and the breeder is not being very careful with exposing the puppy positively, and the breeder is not working on building trust and communication channels between you and your puppy, and the breeder is not putting the puppies through a curriculum program, and the breeder is just putting the puppies in a pen with fluffy toys all day, our puppies are not learning these experiences. Their brain is not being shaped in the way that we need it to be shaped so that they are well adjusted and calm and not fearful, anxious cavoodles. And when this happens and you get a puppy from the wrong type of breeder, it really makes everything more difficult. Now, I'm going to go through some of the things the breeder can achieve with their puppies. And I'm going to go through it based on what I used to do with my puppies when I was breeding. And this is what I used to be able to achieve with my puppies by the time they were 8 weeks. And I want to share this with you so that you can understand what questions to ask a breeder, and you're able to understand to what extent can they achieve certain things with puppies. Because I want you to get the best raised Cavoodle possible. And I really want you to do this because it means that your experience training them and bringing them into your home will be so much smoother, and your Cavoodle will be so much more confident. They'll be able to regulate their emotions, and they're not going to struggle with behavioral issues. So when I was breeding Cavoodles, I had an entire curriculum program with them. And this means from the day they were born up until the day they left me, every single day we had certain activities that we would do together individually with the puppies. I individually did with the puppies, depending on the age, where their brain was at in terms of their development, and also more importantly, because I was working one-on-one with puppies, I was able to see what the individual puppies were struggling with, and then I could adjust my curriculum to bring up the confidence or do some extra training with each puppy depending if they were struggling with certain things. And I was able to do this because as a breeder, it was my full-time job, and it means that I wasn't balancing another job. I wasn't out of the house every day. I wasn't balancing a household full of children. It was just me and a litter of puppies, 1 litter at a time, and dedicating the entire 8 weeks, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day to these puppies. And as someone who has been doing this with a curriculum program, I can tell you that there is no way I would be able to deliver the amount of time these puppies need if I had 20 puppies at once, if I had 4 litters at once. if I also worked a full-time job somewhere else or part-time job, or if I had a household full of lots of young children. None of this would have been possible. Breeding is a full-time job. The amount that we can really achieve with our puppies is incredible, but to achieve it, it takes a lot of time. And so when it comes to picking a breeder, we want to ask these questions about how much time they have available for their puppies. And when I say time, I would be up from 6:30 in the morning, and the puppies would go to bed maybe 7:30 at night. And throughout that time, I was home all day with them, 12 hours a day with them. And then during the night, of course, when they were young, we were up all night because they were, newborn puppies. But otherwise, it's a 12-hour-a-day job, 7 days a week. There's no weekends off. It is a full-time job because every day is so essential and influential on our puppies' behaviour and their mannerisms going forward. And some of the things that I would achieve with my puppies is they were fully crate trained by 8 weeks, which means they slept individually zipped up in a crate every night, which means when they go to their new houses, they'd never dealt with crying at nighttime because the puppy already had a very safe place, their own little bedroom that they had been sleeping in individually at my house. And so when they went to their new families, they weren't scared all night. They weren't crying all night. They weren't weeing all night. They weren't keeping anyone up all night. They were crate trained. And this is possible by 8 weeks of age. The puppies were also fully toilet trained at my house. And what this means is they were toilet trained to grass, real grass and fake grass. And when they went to their new homes, if the families listened to my guidance and they set up the puppy area correctly, they never dealt with any accidents. 0 accidents for toilet training. And that's because I toilet trained them myself. We formed a very, very strong surface preference to grass for the puppies, and the puppies were going to the toilet on grass from the second they were able to wee by themselves, which is when they were 3 weeks old. So the second they didn't need their mum to stimulate them to go to the toilet, they were going to the toilet on grass in their whelping box. And this means by 8 weeks, they were fully toilet trained, which is amazing. Imagine having a puppy you didn't have to toilet train. Imagine having a puppy who never kept you up at night. These things are possible with the right breeder. Something else that I used to teach my puppies is I would teach them they knew their names, they knew their sit, they knew how to mand, they knew recall, they knew stay, leave it, swap, place. We could learn all of these exercises by the time they were 8 weeks. Now, of course, these exercises by 8 weeks, they have learnt them all. But we still have plenty of time to develop them further, add more distance between us and the puppy when we're asking them to do these things, add more distractions into the room, children, or be out in public. But your puppy has learnt the basics of all of these exercises. Your puppy has also learnt, when I had them, and I just mentioned it, it was something called manding. Now, manding is a really, really important skill to learn, because this is your new communication channel for your puppy. And what manding is we teach a puppy, if you want something from a human, you sit patiently, instead of barking or biting or jumping or chewing. And this is how we stop all those naughty puppy behaviors, because we've taught them another way to communicate. And this is possible by the time your puppy is 8 weeks. And what this means is when they go to their new homes, when the puppy wants something, maybe they want to cuddle, or they want to play, or they want to chew something, or they're hungry, or they're bored, the puppies would go and just sit at their family's feet. How amazing is that? Immediately, by teaching them this, your puppy is already doing so much less of those naughty puppy behaviors because they've learned another way to communicate with humans. This is so important for them to learn. And this can be achieved with the breeder. There are so many things the breeder can do. The breeder, if they do it right, the puppies are fully comfortable being brushed. They're fully comfortable having their hair around their eyes trimmed. They don't squirm. They don't get scared. They don't shake in fear. They love the bath. They're fully confident. They're doggy door trained. They're not scared of the vacuum cleaner, the whippersnipper. They're not scared of the dishwasher or the blender. They're not scared of anything. All of these things can be formed with the breeder, especially if the breeder is raising them in the home environment. And so the breeder's impact is so, so, so huge. And if you haven't yet picked your breeder, I really urge you to take your time with this decision. It's the most important decision you will make. It will completely change what your training journey looks like. And if you can pick the right breeder, you are setting yourself up and your puppy up for 15 years of joy instead of possibly 15 years of behavioral issues, which can definitely be the case if the puppy comes from a breeder who doesn't do anything with them, makes negative associations because they're unaware of the puppy's body language, never teaches the puppy another way of communication, scares the puppy by overwhelming them or flooding them too soon. All these things are so possible because your puppy is in that critical socialization period for so long with the breeder. So your breeder is incredibly, incredibly important. Now, if you're listening to this and you're going, okay, I need a breeder, I need a good breeder, how do I find a good breeder, what do I do? Reach out to me, send me an email. My email address is hello@oodleway.co, and I can let you know a few breeders who have partnered with me where I really love the curriculum program they raise their puppies on, and I believe it really sets the puppies up well for success. And then the breeder is also going a step further and they put you on to me as a trainer going forward at no cost to you. So the breeder absorbs the cost and they want to send their puppies home with my training program. So if you're looking for a breeder and you want that recommendation, reach out to me, send me an email. I can let you know who's on my list. It's a growing list. It takes a long time to find breeders that I really do love. But yeah, reach out to me and I can let you know what breeders I do recommend. Now, the next mistake that I see a lot that really hinders the training for families is where families focus simply on obedience training instead of something I like to call lifestyle training. So obedience training is what you will learn if you go to puppy school with your puppy. And so what you get taught at puppy school will be their name, sit, down, you'll learn recall, you might do some loose lead walking, and those are mainly the exercises you're teaching. It's obedience. It's you're going to tell your puppy to do something and then they behave. They do it. So you say sit and they sit. You say lie down and they lie down. That's obedience training, and that's what you'll learn at puppy school. Obedience training is important for a puppy to learn. It teaches them some impulse control. It teaches them some patience. And it also means that we can request certain behaviors from them if we need to. However, for me, this is never a huge goal for my training with them. For me, that obedience training is used for mental enrichment for our puppies. So it's important to mentally enrich them and challenge their brain. So it's great for that. But that obedience training is not going to give you a well-behaved puppy. It's not going to give you a good cavoodle. And the reason is there is 24 hours in the day and we don't just tell our puppy to sit and then expect them to sit for 24 hours. We can't tell them to stay and then expect them to stay for 24 hours. Absolutely not. So obedience training is like a momentary thing. You can do it for, ask them for a sit for a minute, ask them to stay for a minute. But what happens for the next 24 hours of the day? What happens then? What does the puppy do? And that's when it's really important to shift your mindset away from obedience training to lifestyle training. Because the goal with training our puppy is to teach them how to behave and how to act in our world without us constantly having to tell them something like sit, stay, lie down. Because it's impossible. We can't tell them that 24 hours a day. Instead, what we need them to be able to play with their toys when they want to play, go for a sleep when they're tired, sit down on their bed when people walk through the door, not jump all over people out of excitement. We need them to go chew on their enrichment treat if they've got sore teeth. We need to teach them how to relax when we're out in public and we're watching the sports game of our children. These are the things we need to teach our puppy. It's lifestyle training. It's teaching them how to make the right choices on their own accord without us instructing them all day. And it definitely takes more time. It's harder for a puppy to learn for sure, because there's not a clear set behavior that we're asking where they can do something like sit and then get a treat. Instead, lifestyle training is just about shaping behaviors. And that there is something that requires a lot of intentional training sessions that's more focused on behavior and more focused on understanding what your puppy is thinking, meeting these needs, and then guiding your puppy in the right actions to display. Sounds complicated, is complicated, But that's a trainer's job to know that it's complicated. The trainer's job is then to make it easy for you to implement, which it is easy to implement, but it's just a different way of training. And lifestyle training is the biggest differentiator between a really good puppy and a bit of a naughty puppy. So your training, obedience is great for some mental enrichment. Of course, we can teach that, but I want you to focus more so on lifestyle. If all you're focusing on in your training sessions is sit down and stay, you're going to struggle with a naughty puppy outside of this. We need to focus on that communication channel. We need to focus on meeting our puppy's needs. And we need to focus on teaching our puppy how to relax in our home, to regulate their emotions, to not get too excited or too stressed or too anxious where they then get that adrenaline rush. We need to teach them how to manage those emotions. And that is all lifestyle training. And I say lifestyle because it depends on your lifestyle. If you work 9 to 5 out of your house, the lifestyle training you need to give your puppy is pretty different to someone who's 9 to 5 from home. And if you have children, your lifestyle training is different, because if you have children in the house and friends coming over and they're 6 years old, the way they behave around the puppy is going to be very different to if you have an elderly couple who has a new puppy and they're not running around and screaming and crying and laughing all day long. So your lifestyle training is lifestyle. It's what's your lifestyle and how do we train our puppy and teach them how to exist in our lifestyle. And it looks different for every family. Now, the next thing that I see families do that really hinders their training, and it kind of links in with this previous one of obedience, is it's when families are not focusing on doing the training that prevents the puppy from developing the behavioral issues that are common to the breed. Now, depending on what breed of dog you have, they have their own breed purpose, and their breed purpose changes. If you have a border collie or a kelpie, they are a working breed dog. They're bred to work, and they are bred with a lot of confidence. They have a lot of motivation to work with humans. They will do anything to listen to you. It gives them so much fulfillment, and they're always keen to be thinking and working, and they're a very smart breed of dog, and they need plenty of mental enrichment and physical enrichment because they originally were bred to be working on a farm, a property, herding animals. And so that's a working breed dog. Cavoodles are not a working breed dog. Cavoodles are part poodle, part Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. The poodle was actually originally a hunting dog. They used to help the hunters hunt ducks and rabbits. So they're very smart in that way, and we have to address those intrinsic needs in the poodle. But then the Cavalier King Charles Spaniel was bred as a companion breed. And so they were bred to sit on the laps of kings and queens in a castle to keep them warm. And so when we mix those together, we get a wonderful Cavoodle. And the training we do for a Cavoodle has to be focusing around these things and what's common to the breed. Now, the behavioral issues common to Cavoodles is, number one, the biggest one, separation anxiety. And what separation anxiety looks like is your puppy cannot be separate from you. If you walk away from them, their anxiety spikes, they stress, they cry, they bark, they chew, they dig, they cannot handle being apart from you. It causes them so much anxiety. If your puppy has separation anxiety, you can imagine just how restricting this is if you can never ever leave your puppy home alone. And your puppy can never be left home alone and actually be comfortable and happy on their own. So separation anxiety is a major behavioral issue that Cavoodles are prone to. The next one is social anxiety. Social anxiety is when a puppy experiences anxiety when they leave the house in social settings. So again, they are not confident around people and dogs. They get really anxious and really stressed. And a lot of the dogs who experience social anxiety, that then leads to reactivity. And what reactivity looks like for Cavoodles is a Cavoodle who barks on the lead at everyone and every dog they see, and can even get aggressive on the lead because they are so scared and so anxious that the only way they can deal with this is through aggression to try and get people away from them and to get dogs away from them. And so social anxiety and reactivity is another behavioral issue very common to the breed. The next one is over-arousal. Over-arousal is when a puppy struggles with excitement and they get very excited. And when a puppy struggles with over-arousal, what that looks like is a puppy who Every time you get home or every time a visitor comes over, they zoom around the house, they're barking, they're jumping, they cannot handle the excitement, they cannot calm down. They're an absolute maniac. They're like a little tornado zooming through the house. Or you go out in public and you're on the lead and the puppy gets so excited every time they see someone or some dog that again, they're pulling on the lead relentlessly, zigzagging in front of you, they're barking out of excitement, and it's just really hard work because your puppy just can't seem to calm down. That is another really, really common behavioural issue for Cavoodles. Another one is sound and sight sensitivity. So this is when your puppy is really sensitive to sounds and sights. They're not confident, and every time they hear thunder, fireworks, the blender, a loud bang, anything at all, it is followed by a lot of anxiety and a lot of fear. And those puppies there can be very destructive during storms, during fireworks, very just sensitive where they freak out anytime they hear something. And that's really hard for a family to deal with too, especially if you have children at home who, are quite noisy. Another behavioural issue that really is common to Cavoodles is the inability to regulate their emotions. This is the most important thing to teach your puppy. If they can't regulate their emotions and their emotions go from 0 to 100 in the blink of an eye, your puppy is constantly at a state of either anxiety, overexcitedness, stress, whatever that emotion is. They have those heightened emotions constantly. They can never seem to regulate them. And so they constantly then have those adrenaline rushes. And then they're constantly chewing and digging and barking and jumping to try and work through that adrenaline rush to calm themselves down. There are so many behavioural issues common to Cavoodles. And the reason why there is so many behavioural issues common to the breed is because so many families get a Cavoodle and they do the wrong type of training when they first bring their puppy home. They spend all day, every day with the puppy for the first week and oops, now the puppy has separation anxiety. Or they take their puppy out in public and everyone crowds around the puppy and is patting them and a dog comes and sniffs them and it freaks the puppy out, it overwhelms the puppy, floods their emotions too soon, and whoops, now they have social anxiety. There's so many things that families do with the best intentions, but actually can lead to a lot of behavioural issues for your puppy. And that's why it's really important that when we do have a Cavoodle puppy, we are very conscious of what behavioural issues are common to the breed, and every interaction we have with them is making sure that we are giving them the skills to not deal with that. So rather than having an anxious puppy, we're building them up with self-confidence. We're making them very confident within themselves so that they are able to be out in public and not be stressed and not anxious, to be left alone and be happy, to not be really sensitive when they hear thunder and lightning and fireworks. And we're making sure that we are showing our puppy and guiding them through all of these different experiences very positively and teaching them how to regulate those emotions and have a very positive outlook on the world. But if all we're doing is focusing on obedience training and all we are doing is focusing on, can I get my puppy to sit perfectly and stay perfectly and come when every time I call them over perfectly, if that's what you're focusing on and we're not addressing any of these behavioral issues that are common to the breed, that is when we can really do the wrong kind of training, and even though we had the right intentions, we get the wrong results. And so the training we do for Cavoodles has to be specific to the breed. It has to be very, very intentional so that we are properly showing our puppy the world, giving them the right skills to deal with the world, and we're never doing anything that is going to give us the results we don't want. Now, the final thing that I see very commonly for families, the mistake that really hinders their training, is when they do not have a proper plan or routine for their puppy. Puppies are just like babies. They thrive off of routine, and the best thing you can do for your new Cavoodle puppy is have them on a set routine from the day you bring them home, where every minute of the day is allocated for. And every minute of the day, we are doing a certain activity with them that is going to either teach them a new skill, it's going to form a positive association with a new thing in their world. Whatever it's going to do, we're very intentional. Now, in no world should a puppy be awake all day. Your puppy needs so much sleep. So a really big part of the routine is making sure your puppy gets enough sleep and actually starts to learn how to sleep on their own, how to go to sleep when they are tired. that's a really important part of a routine, because an overtired puppy is a naughty puppy. I'll say it from now to the day I die. If your puppy is naughty, a lot of the time it's because they're overtired. But again, the amount of sleep your puppy needs depends on the age. It depends on the age, it depends on the breed, it depends on how active they are, it depends on so many things. And that's why we need to make sure we are very clear on the routine for our puppy, and it changes depending on our puppy's age, the stage of development they're in, and what we are doing with them. The more we do with them, the more tired they'll get, but the older they get, the more focus they have. So it's, a give and take, and we have to be really careful that we're getting enough sleep for our puppy while also meeting their other needs. Because if your puppy is not getting enough mental enrichment, physical enrichment, chew time, sleep, play time, cuddle time, socialization, if they're not getting enough of these things, your puppy can be bored, they can be overwhelmed, they can be stressed, they can be overexcited, they can be overtired, and no matter what this reason is, if your puppy is not being properly fulfilled and content, your puppy is going to act out, and they're going to try and, chew on your fingers because they have sore teeth, or they're going to zoom around the house because they're so tired, but no one has taught them how to sleep when they're tired, or they're going to be jumping all over you because they're so bored and they just want something to do. So it's really important that, again, we have them in a routine that does a certain amount of activities with a certain amount of intensity at a certain age, depending on how old your puppy is and what stage of development they are in. Training a puppy, there's so many different parts to it. And if you want to have a really smooth journey of training a puppy and they transition into your home really easily with no toilet accidents, sleeping through the night, they never bite you, they never bark, and they're just happy and relaxed and content, we have to make sure we're ticking all these things off. And we have to make sure they're in a good routine. And we have to make sure that everything we are doing with them is properly instilling the right skills inside of them so they don't have those behavioral issues that are so common to Cavoodles. It's a whole process, and having a puppy, it's not as simple as obedience training. It is so much more complex than that. There's so much more to it. And I know you're probably listening to this and you're feeling maybe a little bit overwhelmed. How on earth are you supposed to do all this? What do you even do? And this is something that a lot of families fall into. This is a trap, a place people fall into where they're feeling very overwhelmed with their new puppy, or they have their puppy and the puppy is not doing the behaviors they're wanting and they're really struggling with their training. Whatever it is, it's because there's so much to do with the puppy. It's because they're a dog and we're humans and we don't speak the same language. And it's a whole journey to learning how to communicate to each other. And those skills don't come naturally to us. It's only after being around dogs for a long time that you start to pick up on these things. And so I ran into this problem so many times with families, and I would coach them and I would train them as best as I could. But no matter what happened, families were still feeling so overwhelmed. They were having the puppy blues. They were stressing. The puppy was not behaving the way they wanted. And that's because so much of the time, families weren't doing the right training. They weren't getting their puppies into a routine. They picked the wrong breeder. They had the wrong expectations. Family members were not all on the same page. Whatever it was, it just wasn't clicking. There were puzzle pieces missing. And as a Cavoodle breeder and a Cavoodle coach, I really wanted to fix this problem for families. I really wanted to make this a lot easier. I wanted to simplify it so that families could just have a set plan to follow that would achieve all of the things their puppy needs to be doing. That we're really focusing on that critical socialization period. We're making sure everything is positive. We're increasing the intensity of all of our activities as our puppy responds well. And we are putting our puppy into the right routine for their age. And we're doing obedience training, but we're also doing lifestyle training. And we're doing training that's going to prevent the behavioral issues coming to the breed. Putting it all into a really easy plan, very straightforward for families to follow. And that was my goal. And so now for this part of the episode, what I really wanted to tell you is I wanted to tell you a little bit about how I can help you if you are getting a Cavoodle puppy soon, or you've just brought a puppy home and you're really wanting to do things right and set your puppy up for success from the beginning and have the most beautiful life with them. Because I am someone who's had a Cavoodle now since I was 8 years old. I've had Cavoodles for the last over 17 years of my life. I think they are the most beautiful dog in the world. I think they are wonderful, and they can be the best family member you could ever ask for if we do the right training in the beginning to really help them fit into our lifestyles. And so I have created something called the Cavoodle Training Academy. And the first thing I want to say about this is designed specifically for Cavoodles. So everything I've spoken about in this episode, every single topic we have gone through has been taken into consideration when creating this Cavoodle Training Academy. It is not your basic puppy school where you're just going to be doing obedience training, where there's no breed-specific training or breed-specific advice. This is a program completely tailored to Cavoodles. And it's a program that flows on from what I used to do with my puppies when I bred them. So all of those amazing achievements I could do, puppies who are fully crate trained and sleeping through the night, never dealing with toilet training struggles, a puppy who sat when they wanted something instead of biting or jumping. All of these amazing things is what is included in the Cavoodle Training Academy, and it's delivered in a really easy, straightforward way for families to follow. Essentially, I've done all the work for you, and for the duration of the program, all you have to do is follow the daily schedules I have created for the first 4 weeks with your Cavoodle puppy. Now, the reason why it's 4 weeks long is because most of the time, families get their puppies at 8 weeks. And guess what is 4 weeks long? That critical socialization period. We have from 8 to 12 weeks to do our best with our Cavoodles to set them up for success. And so the program reflects this, and it takes into consideration the way your puppy's brain is working at this time and how we actually properly expose them to things so that they are confident and they're not overwhelmed or stressed or fearful. And so for 28 days for the program, you follow these schedules, and they start very simple, and we focus on building trust and confidence in our puppies. We start to form a communication channel with our puppies, and we learn how to read our puppies' body language to know what they're asking for, how to then deliver it to them. We get them onto a really good sleep schedule so that they're sleeping all night, sleeping a lot during the day. We start doing our socialization to build confidence. We do all of our behaviour shaping, our mental enrichment, our physical enrichment. We do some desensitization to make sure we don't deal with a puppy who's scared of vacuums or hair dryers or blenders or children or anything like this. And for 28 days, it's a program that is going to really support your puppy's development. It's going to ease your puppy through it so we don't flood their emotions too quickly. And it's going to make sure we form all of these positive associations while also teaching our puppies all of those skills to be able to deal with life. Teaching them how to regulate their emotions, teaching them how to remain calm in public and not get anxious, to be calm and happy when they're on their own. It's going through everything I've spoken about in this episode, but it's made it really simple and straightforward for you because all you have to do is follow the daily schedules every day for 28 days. Each activity has a little video of me and a Cavoodle puppy, his name is Joey, he's beautiful, showing you how to do the activity. And it changes from week to week because as the puppies get older, the activities change. And you do it at your own pace, and you can do it with the entire family. And this is really important because if the whole family isn't involved and on the same page with training, then there's going to be miscommunication because one person will be doing one thing with the puppy and the other person will be doing the other thing. And that's going to make your puppy confused. And then they're going to have that heightened emotion. And what do they do when they get heightened emotions? They have the adrenaline rush and they start to chew and bite and bark and jump. So the good thing about my Cavoodle Training Academy is it's fully digital. It is fully self-paced. It means everyone in the family can follow the program, watch the videos, follow the schedules. And you also get each week for 4 weeks, you get to come onto a group Q&A call with me and the other families in the program, and you get to ask me any questions. So if you have a 3-story house and you're concerned about toilet training, ask me about it. We'll talk about your house layout. If you have kids going to school sport in the afternoon and during the day you're in and out of the house and you're worried about how we're going to do the schedule, tell me about it. I'll help you do through it. Because everything about the program can be designed for your family. So depending on what your schedule is, we have the schedules to work around for your puppy. So if you're out all day, what do we do in the morning and the evening? If you're home all day, what do we do during the day? It's very adaptable to every family, and that Q&A support is there so that you don't feel lost, so that you don't feel like you don't know what to do, so that you feel confident, reassured, and you know you're doing the right thing. That's what the Q&As are for. And you get the 4 Q&As once a week for the 4 weeks just to speak to me and to make sure you feel fully calm and like you're doing the right thing. Another really good thing about the program is you also have access to this private Facebook group that I have, families in the program. There's hundreds of families in there now. And it means throughout the week, if you have questions, you can pop it in the group, and families who have already been through the program and maybe have a Cavoodle who's older than yours can come in and give you advice. It's an amazing, supportive community of families who are choosing the same training as you. And you can also ask families if anyone is in the same suburb as you, the same city as you, and actually organize play dates. It's amazing when you connect with families who value the same things as you and are on the exact same training journey as you. So my Cavoodle Training Academy, I'm so proud of this program. It is everything I do when I have a puppy. It's the exact program I follow with new Cavoodles. And it is everything I do to get success so that my Cavoodles never have behavioral issues and also fully complement my lifestyle instead of complicating it. Because that is my goal at the end of the day. You should enjoy puppyhood. We don't have to feel puppy blues. And our puppies should fit into our lifestyle. They shouldn't make it harder. They shouldn't complicate it. They shouldn't restrict us. They should just fit into it with us. And a Cavoodle has the potential to do all that. We just have to do the right training with them from the beginning to make sure this is possible. Now, if you have a Cavoodle already, it is not too late to join. I welcome families into the program with puppies up to 16 weeks of age. So if your puppy is under 16 weeks at all, please join the program. If you're still not sure if it's right for you, again, send me an email, tell me a bit about your situation, and I can let you know if you're going to get the results and the goals out of the program that you're wanting. Again, my email address is hello@oodleway.co. But if you don't have your puppy yet and you're in the process of finding a breeder or you've put a deposit down, this is the time to join my program. You actually get 365 days access into it. And before you dive into those 4 weeks of daily training schedules with your puppy, there is actually a really detailed, very extensive Cavoodle preparation module. And this is where we learn all about Cavoodles. If you've enjoyed this episode, this is a very, very surface level dive into what the Cavoodle breed is like. And in my Cavoodle preparation module inside the Cavoodle Training Academy, I share more about the critical socialization period. I talk more about how to manage your Cavoodle's emotions, how to read their body language. I talk more about how Cavoodles think, act, and behave so that you fully understand what to expect from your puppy's behavior when they come home. We also cover things like how to set up the house, how to toilet train, how to crate train from scratch, what to buy for your puppy, when to book their vaccinations in at the vet, what parasite control to pop them on, when to take them to the vet, when is their poo well formed, or when do they need to go get some medication. We talk about everything. It's literally anything you could think about. Any question you have about a Cavoodle is included in that preparation module. And it is so valuable to do. And all of the information inside is from everything I have learned over the past 10 years. And I started my career working in a veterinary clinic. I was in the nursing area, and that's where my career started. So there was a lot of things about health. I then moved into working at a grooming salon. So there is a lot there about how to properly desensitize your puppy to the grooming tools, the bath, the brush, the hair dryer. I actually even teach you in the program how to do a puppy groom on your puppy from home. So that means trimming between the eyes, trimming their paws, trimming their hygiene areas, bathing them, brushing them, blow drying them. That's a really important skill to learn, because if you don't learn it, you'll have to send your puppy to the groomer every single month, and it costs upwards of $80 a month to do a puppy tidy up. That's expensive. So I teach you that in the program, and it also has so much information about how to integrate puppies with children, how to properly cuddle your puppy so they don't bite your nose, how to play with your puppy. It's such a detailed program. It's got everything you could ever think about for a Cavoodle puppy, and it's delivered in a very easy format because you just watch the preparation module, and then when your puppy arrives home, you print out your daily schedules, and each day you just follow the activities and watch the video of me doing it, and then you copy it with your puppy. And then you have those Q&As for support as well if you have extra questions. So I love this program. I would love to welcome you into it. Again, it's never too early to enroll. You get a full 365 days access to the entire program. So if you're getting a puppy, thinking about a puppy, join now, learn all about the Cavoodle breed. And then when you actually get your puppy home, you'll still have plenty of time up your sleeve to do the training portion of the program. And again, it's lifestyle training. We're training for a lifestyle so that your puppy complements your lifestyle and doesn't complicate it. So I'll leave a link in the show notes if you want to look into that program. I would love to welcome you inside. If you have any questions, send me an email, hello@oodleway.co. If you want to find out some reviews and testimonies on how families have gone through the program, again, go onto my website. There's plenty on there. Look at my Google reviews. You can also follow me on Instagram @oodleway, and there is plenty of information there on how I train puppies, my philosophy. There's reviews on there, everything on there. I'd love to see you inside. So hopefully I will hear from some of you and I'll be able to welcome you inside and we'll get started straight away. Anyway, that's the end of this episode. I know it was very long, but I hope it was really helpful, really beneficial. This is everything I wish I could say to you if I was sitting down with you for coffee about getting ready for a Cavoodle. So I hope it's given you a lot of clarity. I hope you've really enjoyed it. And I will see you next week in the next episode of the Cavoodle Coach podcast. This has been your Cavoodle Coach, Tiana Karamayas. I'll see you later. Bye.